Introduction to Shell Scripting. You know, it's funny. Ever since Windows was introduced, the world was starting to be weaned off the command line to the more intuitive GUI tools we know and love today. GUI tools have become more powerful than ever before, but the problem is GUI tools are often slower than most command line tools and rarely offer the same level of control. With Windows 2003, not only has Microsoft made strides in making this the most powerful Windows operating system ever, but they've also beefed up what we can do from the command line. No, the command line is not dead. It's alive and kicking, and it's there for those people that want to harness the real power of Windows. Of course, the geeks of the world, and I use that term affectionately by the way, well, we knew that already. Now in this course, you can expect to learn the basics of Windows shell scripting. Even if you've never written code before, you can quickly perform routine tasks that would take much longer to perform with the GUI. Okay, so what is shell scripting? Well, I tried to think up a fancy description for shell scripting to make it sound like a skill only those with high IQs could ever understand. But my IQ isn't that high, and shell scripting is actually rather easy. It just takes practice. So my definition of shell scripting would therefore be a list of commands executed in order to perform a task. That's it? Well, yeah, more or less. Consider this. Suppose the boss, i.e. your wife, sends you out shopping with a list of things she wants you to get for dinner tonight. The eventual goal here is to get what's needed for dinner. In order to get dinner tonight, you need to get everything on the list. So off to the shops you go and start at item number 1 and find each item until you've got them all. Shell scripting is really no different. You execute command number 1, then number 2, and number 3, and so on until you've entered all the commands and then arrived at the final result. Now there might be a few decisions to make along the way that might affect the end result, but hopefully you get the idea. Alright, before we start, let's prepare our environment first just to make life a little easier for us later on. So the first thing we'll do is click on Start and open up My Computer. Now we'll navigate to our C drive, and I'm just going to right click here and create a new directory, and I'm just going to call this one Scripts. Now this will just give me a good place to store all of the scripts that we're going to create in this series of videos. Okay, with the directory created, we'll just minimize Windows Explorer and then we'll right click on the desktop and create a new shortcut. The first thing we need to do is provide the path to the command prompt. So we can either type it in manually or we can click Browse, we'll expand My Computer, expand our C drive, we'll expand Windows directory, and we'll scroll down and we'll expand System32, and then we'll scroll down again until we find cmd.exe, and there it is, and we'll click OK. Now we'll click Next and just give our shortcut a name, and I'm just going to remove the .exe here and then click Finish. Okay, so we now have easy access to our command prompt on our desktop. Now if we double click on our shortcut to test it, it should open up a new command prompt. And cool, it works. That's a good start. Okay, now we'll right click anywhere on the title bar of our command prompt and we'll choose Properties. Now by the way, any of the changes that we make here are optional. I'm not telling you that they are required changes to make. No, not at all. Your shell scripts will work fine without making a single change here. I'm just suggesting that if we make a few changes here to make your life all the more enjoyable. Okay, the first change I'd like to make is on the Options tab, and that's to select the Quick Edit mode. Now what this setting does is allow you to use your mouse in a command prompt window to select text so that you can copy and paste it. Now on the Font tab, I won't make any changes here as changes here are purely cosmetic, but you might want to choose a larger font if you find it easier to read, or change the font to suit the output that you're going to be expecting. On the Layout tab, I like to ensure that the buffer size is rather generous, particularly the height. You see, if the output of one of your shell scripts is rather long, without a large buffer for the screen height, we might find that some of the text scrolls all the way up the screen and that we can no longer view it. So what number should we put in here? Well, ultimately, that's up to you. I'd suggest a value like 1000 because I like to hoard information, but once you start playing with your command window, you'll soon figure out what's right for you. Besides, if you really want to keep all of your output, you can always send the results of your shell scripts to a text file, and we'll learn how to do that soon. Now, as far as the actual size of your command window goes, that's purely cosmetic and it won't affect your scripts in any way, so I won't worry about making any changes here. Now, the final tab, the Colors tab here, again, it's just for your own creative tastes. So I'll click on OK, and I'll choose to modify the shortcut that started this window, and then I'll choose OK again. Now, from now on, any command prompts that I open in the future with this shortcut will also adopt these changes. Alright, we're cooking. Now notice that our command prompt defaults to this directory. Wouldn't it be nice if our command prompt defaulted to our scripts directory that we created a moment ago? You betcha it would, and it'd save some typing each time we opened it. Okay, so let's close down this command prompt now, and we'll right click on our shortcut and select Properties. Now on the Shortcut tab, we can see that the target for this shortcut is the command file stored on our C drive in our Windows System 32 directory. Now underneath this, we can see that it starts in the same directory, C Windows System 32. So let's change this to our scripts directory, and then we'll click on OK. Now when we open up a command prompt from this shortcut, it should open up in our scripts directory. Now the final thing I like to do is set up another shortcut, and this one will point to our inbuilt script editor, good old Notepad. Rather than creating a shortcut to Notepad, let's do this the other way around and create a shortcut from Notepad. So we'll go back to our C drive, our Windows directory, we'll scroll down, we'll select System 32, and then we'll scroll down until we find Notepad, and we'll right click and we'll select Send to our desktop. Okay, now this has just dropped a shortcut to Notepad on our desktop. Okay, the final thing you might want to do if you tend not to have a lot of desktops to see and you find yourself always having to minimize applications to even see, say, these shortcuts that we've just created, is to move them to the quick launch icons down here on your start bar. So if we open Windows Explorer again, we'll navigate to our C drive, Documents and Settings, followed by the name of your account. Now in this case, I'm using the administrator account. Then Application Data, Microsoft, Internet Explorer, followed by Quick Launch. Then what we can do is I'll just drop back to my desktop here, and I'll grab both of these and I'll right click and choose Copy. We'll go back into that directory and we'll just paste them in there. And now if I expand this over a little bit, you can see the two applications that we've just created there. So now we can launch our command prompt and Notepad from our quick launch, so it doesn't matter if we're a messy Susan and we have Windows littering our desktop, we'll always be able to save milliseconds at a moment's notice. Alright, our environment is prepared and we're ready to rock. So let's move on to our next video and we'll get stuck in and produce some shell scripts. We'll see you there.